Most people think life will destroy them through pain, through loss, through rejection, through chaos. But that is not how many lives quietly fall apart. They fall apart in seasons of success, when things begin to work, when money starts coming in, when respect increases, when attention grows, when suffering finally loosens its grip and a person thinks the danger has passed. That is when the real test begins, because hardship exposes weakness, but success often hides it, and hidden weakness is more dangerous. When life starts going well, people relax in ways they do not notice. They stop watching themselves. They stop guarding their habits. They stop questioning their motives. They confuse movement with arrival. They think they have made it, when in reality they have only entered a more seductive form of danger. The Stoics understood this clearly. A man can survive adversity and still be ruined by comfort. He can endure pain and then lose himself to praise, excess, attention, and ease. That is why success is not proof of strength. Often it is only the beginning of a deeper test. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and still wrote private warnings to himself. Not about enemies first, but about his own mind. Seneca had wealth and influence, yet kept reminding himself how quickly abundance can soften a man who stops examining himself. Epictetus taught that losing control over yourself is the only defeat that truly matters. This is what Stoicism sees more clearly than most philosophies. The real danger is not getting what you want. It is forgetting yourself after you get it. The first mistake people make when life starts going well is seeking external validation. At first, it seems harmless. You work, you improve, people notice, and the approval feels deserved. But slowly a shift happens. You stop asking whether your actions are right and start asking whether they are admired. The center moves. What began as discipline becomes performance. What began as inner conviction becomes audience awareness. And once your identity starts feeding on praise, your peace no longer belongs to you. It belongs to whoever is watching. This is what Epictetus warned about. The person who needs outside approval cannot remain free because their emotional state now depends on responses they do not control. Today, people applaud you. Tomorrow, they overlook you. If your worth rises and falls with that, then your success is already unstable. The wise man uses recognition carefully, but does not build himself from it. He knows applause is a terrible foundation because it disappears too easily. The second mistake is talking too much about your rise. This is one of the quietest ways people weaken themselves. The moment something improves, they feel the urge to announce it. They explain what is changing, what they are building, what they are becoming. They reveal progress too early and too often. But speech has a cost. The more you turn your process into a performance, the more your energy starts moving outward instead of inward. Silence is not emptiness here. It is protection. When you expose everything, you invite everything. Opinions, envy, projection, doubt, misunderstanding. And even when none of those things are openly expressed, the mere act of turning growth into public performance can dilute it. You begin to seek emotional reward from talking about progress instead of making progress itself. The Stoic moves differently. He lets his life become more visible than his announcements. He understands that what is real can afford to stay quiet while it is taking shape. The third mistake is becoming comfortable too soon. This is where many people begin falling without hearing the sound. Success feels like permission to soften, to rest more than needed, to lose the edge that built the rise in the first place. Of course, recovery is necessary. Rest matters. But most people do not lose themselves through one large act of laziness. They lose themselves through small permissions repeated often enough to become a new standard. A little less discipline, a little more indulgence, a little less urgency, a little more ease, and slowly the person who created the progress begins to disappear behind the person who now lives off it. This is why Stoicism values consistency more than intensity. Intensity can get you somewhere. Consistency is what keeps you from decaying once you arrive. The world does not stop because you reached a milestone. Time does not pause because you are proud of what you built. If you stop planting entirely, eventually you will only be living off yesterday's labor. And that always runs out. Comfort becomes dangerous the moment it replaces structure. The fourth mistake is forgetting the principles that built your life when life was still hard. Before things went well, you had standards, you had clarity, you had routines that were non-negotiable. You were willing to endure boredom, discomfort, obscurity, and repetition because you had no choice. But then growth arrives, and with it comes temptation. You start bending what used to be fixed. You stop doing what once kept you sharp. You keep the result, but abandon the method. That is one of the oldest forms of self-sabotage. A man rises through discipline and then tries to remain high through convenience. It never works for long. Marcus Aurelius kept writing to himself precisely because he knew power can blur the memory of what matters. He knew that success can create an illusion of safety, and safety makes people careless with principle. But principle is not important only when you are building. It is what keeps what you built from collapsing under success. The fifth mistake is forgetting the people and conditions that shaped your foundation. There is a subtle arrogance that can enter a person when things begin going well. Not always loud arrogance, sometimes just quiet neglect, a drifting away from the people who knew you before the rise, a forgetting of the struggle, the help, the context, the support, the friction that made your character possible. This is dangerous because gratitude is not just a moral virtue, it is psychological protection. Gratitude keeps you from becoming inflated by your own success. It reminds you that you are not self-created in the absolute sense. You were shaped by people, by pressure, by hard seasons, by moments that required more from you than you thought you had. When you lose touch with that, success starts rewriting your memory. It tells you that you became who you are by your own force alone. And once that illusion settles in, humility begins to die. The Stoics knew humility is not weakness, it is balance. It keeps growth from turning into corruption. This is the deeper truth beneath all 5 mistakes. Success is not dangerous because it is bad. It is dangerous because it reduces friction. And without friction, many people stop seeing themselves clearly. They become less watchful, less disciplined, less rooted. They stop guarding the invisible things that made their life strong in the first place. And because decline under comfort is usually quiet, they often do not notice until something meaningful has already weakened. That is why the Stoic remains alert even in good seasons, not paranoid, not joyless, just awake. He enjoys progress without worshipping it. He receives success without kneeling to it. He stays loyal to principle when life finally becomes easier because he understands a brutal truth. The higher you rise, the more expensive inner decay becomes. A weak man is often ruined by hardship. An unguarded man is often ruined by success. So when life starts going well, do not become careless. Do not hand your identity to applause. Do not announce everything. Do not let comfort make you soft. Do not abandon the principles that built you. Do not forget the people and pressures that formed your base. Because success does not test what you can build. It tests what you can keep. And the people who survive success with their character intact are the rare ones who understand that rising is not the victory. Remaining yourself while rising is.